Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here. I am coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome, everyone, to this great and engaging conversation for another LinkedIn Live and also on YouTube Conversation for Humanity. And today, our great host for the most will be none other than Brian Sumner. As you jump on, feel free to comment in the chat on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube and tell us where you're jumping in from. Please give us your questions, your comments, and if you want to be able to jump on, we'll throw up the green room link to be able to join us here in the green room, and we can have up to 10 people at a time. So just be cognizant of that. So we'll get people in and out as quick as we can. And just to let you know, we also will be monitoring both YouTube and also LinkedIn Live. And if you're watching this on the replay, please be sure to comment and hashtag the hashtag replay. And it is a great another conversation is going to be had today, and Brian's going to do one. And just to remember, this is one of the 3 open forums that's under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there facing people today, because it is our goal to work with both employees and employers to bring humanity back to the workforce. And as a reminder, we'll always be going live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, all at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Please feel free to invite your friends, family, colleagues, whoever, and we'd love to be able to have you join us each and every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Remember, Tuesday is hosted by none other than Miss Sandy Chernoff here today for Sharing Care with Sandy. Every Wednesday is me for Conversations for Humanity. And Thursday is always Humanity Happy Hour hosted by none other than Carla Finnegan. So we're going to get started with the live. And Mr. Brian Sumner, it is yours to take away, sir.
Thanks, Chris. I figured it was about time that somebody brought something to rebut that little alligator thing behind you. So I'm getting ready for hurricane season in more ways than one. I think maybe, Chris, let's start here. You had a conversation with me maybe about a week or a week and a half ago or so about an experience that you had on another social media platform where some individuals were talking about branding, businesses, personal branding, and so forth. And they had made a comment, and I'm going to paraphrase and correct me if I'm wrong, something along the lines of that in order to effectively brand yourself, you need to be an expert in whatever particular discipline you are branding yourself in for your business. And they alluded to the notion that component was exceedingly important to be successful at branding. And they went so far as to say, if you're not listening or paying attention, you're going to miss kind of the crux of it all. Is that kind of the, nice Reader's Digest version of the experience in so many ways? Because we'll have a nice conversation about expertise and experts and so forth, and the importance of that in terms of management, leadership, or otherwise.
That is spot on, my friend. Absolutely spot on.
So, it's an interesting notion that, in order to be successful in business, whether it be running a business or working in a business or being a leader or manager or in any capacity for that matter of do you need to be an expert in a particular field or discipline in order to be successful or seen as successful? And I think there's many ways to look at what expertise is or isn't, from a practical standpoint or a practitioner standpoint. You can be an expert in a particular discipline, and you can also be an expert from an academic, theoretical perspective as an expert. And there are two distinct, domains, so to speak, and for most part, people try to marry them together, but that doesn't always happen depending on the nature of the field or the industry or even the person. And you know, I would offer that, you know, we are all experts at something, you know, and the most fundamental or perhaps fundamental way of looking at it is that we're all experts at living. I mean, we're all here. Life is turned out. But we all have different skill sets. We all have different strengths and different weaknesses and different interests and values. And in business, or at least branding a business, yeah, it's nice to be the expert of a particular discipline. You know, you'd love to be the best service provider or have the best products. But I remember, you know, going back 15, 20 years ago, you know, the rental car industry, Hertz was the #1 rental car industry, and I think that's still kind of their slogan or tagline. And I remember Avis was, you know, second in it, and they knew fundamentally that they weren't going to get to #1 that easily, but their tagline is that we try harder. You know, they accepted that they were #2 or not the biggest, but they were going to give you superior service or superior benefits or whatever it was. You know, and, you know, one of the things that's interesting about expertise, and maybe it's just the world of social media, maybe it's 2021, maybe it's just the availability of information or whatnot. But everybody says they're an expert. I mean, it's very easy to say I'm an expert in fill in the blank. And it's almost used gratuitously now, that it's almost lost its effectiveness of, you know, do you really believe someone when they say they're an expert? And then in doing so, is expertise mistaken for results or a particular, you know, version of results that we are looking for to, you know, fulfill our belief of what an expert is or isn't? And as we've talked, Chris, and there's a couple other components to it, you know, do you put letters in front of your name and or after your name? Does that enhance the effectiveness of the perception of being an expert, right? You know, does having a DR in front of your name automatically mean you know something that someone who doesn't have a DR in front of their name means, or an MBA or an MS or a PhD or whatever, ESQ for Esquire? I mean, these are designations for particular fields and industries and levels of education, which is perceived a version of knowledge, but does that knowledge equate to expert? And you know, one of the things I'll just share a story that I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who works and runs a university out in Boulder, Colorado, a small school. They specialize in social entrepreneurship, and he's a very big basketball fan. And we were talking about education and the practicality of it and the application of it, and or, you know, being a practitioner of doing something versus teaching it and theoretical aspects of it. And we were talking about basketball, and I asked him a question. I said, since you're a really huge basketball fan, I said, you have two choices. You can take a basketball class and learn how to play and or coach basketball from two people, and you have a choice between each of them, and you can only pick one of them. And I said, you have the option of picking and taking a lesson or class from Pat Riley, who famously has, you know, been a general manager and president of the Miami Heat, the Knicks, the Lakers as a coach, won multiple championships at the highest level. And he also played college basketball at Kentucky, so very good basketball player and so forth. Or you have the option to take a class from a particular individual who has gone through university and has a PhD in sports management and coaching and basketball. And he thought about it for a second. He said, well, of course, I'd like to learn basketball from Pat Riley. And it was just kind of a stark contrast of, you know, what is expertise and how do people look at it? Is it that we're more interested in somebody who knows how to run a business, write code, perform a surgery, and so forth? Or is it more, are we interested in all the information, knowledge, and so forth that someone has? Because there's two different levels, and neither one is better or worse. It's just which is more respected for that particular individual. And I've read stories of people who come back in the military who are field medics, who have performed surgeries and done stuff with soldiers and saving people's lives in the middle of a battle, firing weapons under distress, yet they can't get a job as a surgeon because they don't have the requisite credentials of whatever the medical field says is required. As I think I've shared you with the story, one of the running jokes at the university I was at is, if Jesus Christ came down to teach religion, they might let him. He doesn't have the credentials, and I think education in itself is kind of an interesting animal, which is a different conversation altogether. But from an expert's perspective, what do you think is important for you, or what do you look for, or would put your stock into, and can open it up to anyone at first?
Carla?
I was just thinking of a story where he was talking about credentials and not having credentials. Reminded me of a friend of mine. We went to nursing school together and graduated in 1980. And afterwards, she went to get her bachelor's degree, and then she went into the Air Force. And she actually ran clinics. She was a flight nurse. She was one of these people that could go in and do a research for a 24-hour flight nurse certification and just go in and ace it. She was just that. She still is that good. I mean, right now she's doing infection control for the Mercy ship over off the coast of Africa. She's just one of those type people. She decided that she wanted to get. She did women's health for a while. She did labor and delivery. She ran a OB/GYN clinic for the Air Force, and she wanted to get certified for, I believe it was like La Leche for breastfeeding, that kind of thing. And they said that she had to watch so many deliveries. And she said, well, I've done that many. Do those count? Oh, no, those don't count. You have to watch deliveries. And she said, are you kidding me?
Oh,
so here she didn't fit that box of watching all these deliveries, even though she had been down on the receiving end and had done the deliveries herself in the Air Force, but she couldn't. It's just kind of crazy the way that we kind of put those credentials in boxes like that, and it's like a checkoff list. You could probably, if you were choosing two different people for what you wanted to do for, a coaching, for example, you could get somebody that's got credentials out their arm that doesn't know their nose from a hole in the ground. Whereas you can go with somebody else that has actually done it and had, learned through the hit or misses, the rights and wrongs, and know all that and still be a great coach for you. I don't think the credentials are really that important. I mean, as a nurse practitioner, I learned how to do certain things, but like I said yesterday, I think that any nurse could learn to do what I did. It's a matter of experience. But it's the licensure and the establishment that requires that you have all these different degrees and experience, as opposed to just teaching you the experience.
Yeah. Tyson, what do you think? The expertise, non-expertise, what is it or isn't, and what we've been chatting about briefly?
Well, from what I've seen with my experiences, people who try to do more than what they are trained for really don't end up far. They end up trying to mostly impress the other leaders and try to get up on top of everyone else, and end up falling short and not really having anything. Unlike those who actually do the work and build their way up, which is, in a sense, kind of what I'm doing now. I thought I had everything that I needed, but life threw me a curveball, said nope. And basically, I went from living in my car into living in this trailer. It did take a little bit, and I'm still trying to pay it off, but if you don't have the will to go and work towards something, then really there's no use of you even having that kind of dream if you're not going to work for it. That's my opinion.
Chris, what do you think?
Well, as I was telling you the other day when I was on the phone with you, that there's two different ballparks we have to consider. There's the practical and the theoretical and or actual. And when it comes to that kind of context, do people go in and fall under the practical side of things or the theoretical / actual type of thing? And that's the way I see it. But from an expertise dynamic, for me personally, we're not all experts, because if we're all experts, then we would know it all, do it all, and be all. But we're not. We have to understand our place in space and understand that, you know what you know. But if you want to learn more, to gain more knowledge and insight into things, that's all well and good. But to be in that, it's almost like the leadership plateau effect. There's a graph I've seen that where when it comes to leadership and knowing things and knowledge, you go up, up, up. And some leaders or entrepreneurs, what they'll do is they'll plateau off and they'll go to that point and they stay that way. Or they'll keep going up, 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 up. And then there's some people who go up, plateau, and then drop off because that's all they want to know and that's all they want to do. And that's just, like I said, my 2 cents into that.
Sandy, what do you think?
Oh, I think that some basic education, particularly if you're going into a field like medicine or dentistry or engineering or something, that you do need, some basic education for it. But I think what's more important over the years is the experience that people gain. And that's how I think you become really an expert. It's one thing to be a book learner, and that's very nice. But in the real world, we need to have real life experiences in our field with the things that we've learned. And then we learn more because we also learn from the people that we are interacting with. And we learn from the experiences that we've had. And I just think that a real expert is someone who has been doing something, doesn't matter what it is, for a very long time. And so they have gained a lot of expertise because they have experience doing whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. I've been teaching soft skills now for over 30 years. And I had 2 different courses in it before I started teaching it. And I continue to do research on different kinds of exercises and even on the topics that I teach to make sure that I'm up to date with what other people are teaching on those topics. And when I give live workshops, I learn from the participants, because like I said, Brian, different people have different perceptions and different experiences. And I learn from them as much as they probably learn from me. And it's just a matter of, I think when you like something and you have passion about it, then you will grow with it. And I think experts grow with their field, whatever it may be, because it's something that they're interested in. If you're doing something, like Tyson said, he didn't want to go back to a warehouse. I think when you're doing something that you like, then you're more interested in learning more about it. And I think that's, that really makes you more of an expert because you continue to learn. I mean, I've had all kinds of experiences and I've taught workshops from Victoria, BC to Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I've even done some in New York. I mean, I've been in a lot of different places teaching. And your audience is always different. You never know what that dynamic of that cohort is going to be. So you learn every time you give a workshop. And I enjoy that. I think that it's really cool. I really like learning new things. It's something that I get bored. So I like to continually learn. And that's why this business was really good for me, because I had to learn things. There just wasn't a choice. I had to learn how to use WordPress. I had to learn how to use Word better. I had to learn how to use PowerPoint. I had to learn how to use a learning management system. I had to learn how to blog. Like there's all sorts of things that you have to learn to do, because if you don't, then people don't find you and they don't follow you. And, you need to have some credibility, if you will. And if you have a good website and you blog on a few sites like I do, then you start having credibility. And so it's very important to do those things. And I mean, most of my friends think I'm nuts, because pretty much all my friends are retired. A lot of my girlfriends are retired teachers, because in my day, that was pretty much, you either went into nursing, Carla, or you went into teaching, and that was about it. Women didn't do much else. And so and when I started out, dental hygiene was a very new profession. And the reason I went into that is because my dad was a dentist, and he suggested it to me that it might be something I would enjoy because I like science. So, but it's just a matter of what are you doing? And I really enjoyed practicing for the years that I did. But because I have a degree in education, and because I was always teaching on the side, this transition into having a soft skills training business was not that hard as a transition. And again, I just think that, the experiences that I've had in 30 years of teaching has been beneficial to me, and it makes me a better presenter. And it's just a matter of people, people come up to me and say, "You're so passionate about what you do." I said, "Yeah, I am." And, that obviously comes across when I'm teaching. And I think that sort of engages people. And I think it helps you to keep their attention. And it also makes you believable. I mean, if you're very passionate about what you do, then you must know what you're talking about. So it's just a matter of, I really think that the experience really speaks to expertise. So yeah, you need some basic education on things, but I think from there you just grow. And I think that as long as we are living, we should continue to grow. Because also it's healthy for our brains. And besides, it makes life more interesting. I mean, if we stop learning, how dull is that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
What do you guys think with David's comment just passed by a few moments ago that it's the education or credentialing is a tick box exercise for a lot of companies and a lot of things, and it seems like that's certainly one way to conceptualize it. And a lot of times companies are responding to regulations or laws or accreditation types of boards and so forth.
Because someone has an education or letters beside their name doesn't mean they're going to be good at it.
Yeah, it's the perception though is that you will be. And I think people listen to someone differently than otherwise, rightly or wrongly. Okay. Melinda, we're just kind of talking about expertise and experts and the differentiation of practical experience versus theoretical academic type of expertise, and which are more apt to be looked at and how they're viewed and so forth. And just want to hear your feelings and thoughts on it.
I agree that the experience is more important to me. I had a good experience when I was really young. A childhood doctor. I liked his wife better than him. I couldn't stand him. And the funny thing is, I thought it was just me, my personality, because I was very fragile at that time. When I was young, I was very shy. I was just scared of everything. And what happened was I had to get one of those vaccines, as a kid, and I was dreading it. And I went, and, his wife pulled me towards her so nicely, like how I thought, respectful. And I was like thinking that she was, in all with children, but she had two other boys. And the way he treated me when he came to like give me the needle, it was like I felt like somebody was taking a long thing and just jab it in your body, like who cares, you know, like that, with that attitude. And she was so standing to the side watching him, how he treated me and everything. And when he finished, she took me to the side and walked me and put the Band-Aid on and, you know, talked to me and said, it's going to be okay. She was so, I was like, so there. She might not have his head knowledge, you know, the doctorate degree, like you're saying, the expert degree in front of title. But alongside him, because she's been with him, she's married to him, she has that experience. And it would just knock him to the curb. Like you couldn't, you know, compare, because it was just incomparable. The way she handled every situation, sometimes even more extreme than that, dramatic. You have the kid running down the aisle, doesn't want to take the shot, and she knows what, where, and how to stop the situation to make it happen that they get that kid vaccinated with whatever, and it's calm and everything. But him, it was just, I think he wasn't taught it, or I don't know if it's an innate quality sometimes, but the experience that he had is just dealing with the patient. You, the person, come to him and you give him, and he just gives you. And it was so different when she put you to the side and talked to you and said, it's gonna be okay. I felt like she was the doctor. She should have been called Dr. Nealis, Mrs. 2 or whatever, because, you know, she is Mrs. Nealis as well. But it was just phenomenal. And I met another doctor the same way. Situation was, he was more of learning about the different problems that kids were going through. Like we had whoop cough, you know, these, the other cough, bronchitis, that's really bad. You know, going back to the 1900s, those cough, you know, the influenza, that's really bad. Some people even died. And I have a sibling that had one of those coughs really bad. And I said, you know, I'm just a little kid, doctor. What is the problem? Could you tell me? Because I wanted to know, because he couldn't get along with the parents and the adults. So he said, you know, it might be a nasty thing. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you know, these colds and the coughs, sometimes they go away, sometimes they don't go away. If it doesn't go away, we have a problem. So this doctor learned through experience, and I got able to feel comfortable with him because I didn't really just say Dr. Hakeem. I knew what he was saying because he sat there and he took the time and he said, you know, well, she's having this situation, coughing and pain and throat, all these different things. And he broke it down and he was more helpful. And I think why he is through his experience. He was more of a new doctor from what we knew than the other doctor. That other doctor now, today, would be passed away. He would be, I don't know how old he would be. But this guy probably in his 70s or something, 70-something. But the point I'm trying to make is not because you have the titles in front of your name, your doctor, whatever, make you better than somebody who has more experience than you. Sometimes more experience can teach and show something that that person who has all the years of the book knowledge don't have that. And that's part of the situation with expertise versus experience. And the experience is important because you're more confident in the way you react to people and treat them. You know, whereas the person who has an expert, they're just going by what they just know and what they assume, and you know, but that person has years of experience. They could say, well, you know, she's coughing, she's experiencing this and demonstrating that, and all these different factors. Now we come to this situation. But the whole situation, what I'm trying to show is that the experience that this doctor came with, and because he was willing to learn and to understand what we were going through and what the other kids were going through, because it was a set of kids that had whooping cough. And we found it out in the area. It was in our school, but nobody got it. And bronchitis was really bad at the time. So that's why I'm just saying that the experience that this doctor had, because he was interested in learning more, because there was the things that are going on one after the other, from the chronic bronchitis to the whooping cough and so forth, different things in these type of influenza because of the season, and growing it out. Some people grow it out, some people don't. So the experience is very valuable, because you can show somebody, teach someone, and the expert person is just the expert. It's just like big thing of air if he doesn't have anything else to go with it to show what I can do with it. The knowledge in general is power. It's powerful for us. But if we don't have anything else to follow up, who's going to believe us or understand us or take what we say is real and forthcoming as true?
Well, I think you have to have compassion too, because I know I've worked with physicians before who we referred to, and even the physicians that I worked with said, well, he's really great at what he does, but he's kind of cold. And I thought, how would you, hey, this is Dr. So-and-so. That's like saying, hey, Dr. So-and-so is good when you want somebody under the, if you're under the knife, but he has a horrible bedside manner. Why can't you have both? And I think it goes a long way that you can be knowledgeable, but you have to be personable and understanding of what the person is going through. I've seen it in healthcare, that I've seen providers. I don't care if you're a nurse practitioner or you're a nursing assistant or an RN or even a physician, that they're so mechanical. You look at them like they really don't want to be here, or they're just so cut and dry. Hey, you've got A, B, C, D, and E, then that means you have this disease. Here's your script. Go on to the next person. And in some respects, I think that healthcare, the way that it's got to be managed care now, has really put that constraint on them to where they don't have time to be an individual and actually show the personal side of them, to be able to tell somebody it's going to be okay. This is what I think it's going on, and we're going to get through it. We're going to do X, Y, and Z to help this, and actually educate the patient as to what is actually going on with them, because there's a lot of patients that are just, driven, by, hey, whatever the doctor says, I'm going to do. But I think also in healthcare, it's important to, or even if you're just healthcare, you're just supposedly an expert in something, that if you don't know everything and your expertise is limited, because we don't always all know everything, to be the adult and say, hey, and have emotional intelligence to say, hey, I don't know that. Let me find that out. I'm going to maybe collaborate with some of my colleagues on that, because especially in medicine, you have not seen it all. I remember when I lived in Europe, and at that time I had been in nursing for almost 25 years. And I learned and there was an international clinic in Milan where I was, and the guy was British, real fun guy, very nice, very personal. He actually made house calls too. But one of the things that he had told me that I had never learned through my years in nursing was that if you have mononucleosis and you give somebody a particular antibiotic, when they break out in a rash, that's confirmatory that that's exactly what they have. And I'd never heard that in 25 years of nursing. And those kind of little things always stick with me, that we don't know everything. We know what we learned in school, and we might know what we know through experience, or Sandy may know what she knew through her years of dentistry, but there's always something new to learn. You never know it all. And it takes a strong individual to be able to say, I don't know it all. I know in the business that I'm in, a lot of people are fearful for doing it because they think, I don't know everything. I don't know what you know. And I said, look, your health and wellness, these are all principles that everybody should know, and you can learn them. And you should always be learning how to take care of yourself.
Well, this brings up to mind, Carla, and I'm glad you said what you said about knowing what you need to know. And I tell people this way each and every single day that I meet them, whether it be online, on the phone call, whatever. It's not what you know now is what you know. It's what you don't know is what you need to know. And the same thing goes for people too as well. It's not who you know now is who you know. It's who you don't know is who you need to know. And that's one thing I've learned for so many years, that you have to know people to not only know them as, like what Brian has always taught me so very well, we're already connected, we're already there. But for me to gain that knowledge, maybe you can take it in that two-phase dynamic. Know the knowledge that you don't know, maybe even through the very people you don't even know that you can reach out to and say, hey, I need to know that. Can you teach me? Can you be that guide on that hero's journey? And I think that's been well served for me for many years now.
Well, I feel like I learned something new from every person that I talk to, especially on LinkedIn, that you have connections with people, and, you always find that there's a synergy between the two of you, and that you're always learning from one another.
So we should. I mean, it's unfortunate that in the medical and dental field, by and large, they don't teach what you're talking about, Melinda. How to deal with people, because bedside manner is so important, especially when people are scared because of something that they're ill with, or that they're worried about, or they don't know enough about. And it really is up to the healthcare practitioner to help them feel more comfortable, and to educate them so that they will feel more comfortable, and to make them feel like they're being looked after, if you will. And if they don't have that ability, then it's, their patients aren't going to be comfortable like you were. And it's just a matter of, unfortunately, those things aren't taught in most programs. They are taught in dental hygiene. And the reason they are is because we have a national accreditation team, and every single program across Canada, the content is a little bit different because the licensing in each province is a little bit different. But one of the things that's in every single dental hygiene program is soft skills. We teach effective communication. We teach them how to deal with their patients so that they are going to be successful. Because again, if you can't build trust, respect, and rapport with your patients, then why would they listen to you? And if you can't generate voluntary compliance so that they can actually, in the end, help themselves, you might as well just spin your wheels, because you're not going to be making any progress. And that's pretty frustrating. So the only way to get them to listen to you is to show them that you care about them, and that you are telling them these things because it's going to be in their best interest to do them, because it will be beneficial to their oral health and to their overall health. And it's the same thing with medicine. Patients need to do certain things so they can take better care of themselves. And if the practitioner doesn't teach this and help them to understand why they should do these things, then they're never going to do it, which means that they'll probably get sicker. They might even die. So it's very important that we know how to establish good relationships with the people that we work with, and that we treat if we're, in that sort of situation. It's even true for engineers and architects and lawyers and accountants. I mean, if you can't establish a good relationship with your clientele, how are you going to be able to help them properly? It just doesn't work. But unfortunately, those skills are not taught. And it's a real shame that they're not. And when I don't know if I told you this story, but a friend of mine was running the continuing education program for the Law Society here in BC. So when I started doing this, I phoned Jack up and I said, so how would you like me to come and teach the lawyers how to communicate more effectively? And he laughed and he said, they don't care about that. And I said, well, they should. He said, well, they won't come to those classes. I went, okay. No problem. Just thought I would throw it out.
Offer it.
Yeah. So, and I told you that I phoned the dental school and said, how'd you like me to come and teach an effective communication class to your dental students? And the woman who was in control of the curriculum said to me, they don't have time for that. I mean, okay, they don't have time to learn how to speak to their patients or their staff. Seems a little strange to me, but whatever. I mean, I bit my tongue. I never said that to her, but I just thought strange, very strange, because it is very important. And the good is seek it out, because I've taught a lot of those things at the Pacific Dental Conference, and I always get a lot of people coming because they don't have the opportunity to learn that anywhere else. Real shame. So, it's a matter of, yes, we need to keep learning. And if these are things that are going to help us be better practitioners and to be more successful with our clients and our customers and so on, then we better learn it. And the more we learn it and the more we practice it, the better we get at it. And that's the thing. It's not just learning it, Brian. You got to use it.
Well, we have to also care about the people that we're working with too. Like John C. Maxwell says that I love so much. It's not how much you know. People don't want to know how much you know. They want to know how much you care. And in healthcare, that is so important. And if it's with your customers, they need to know that you care about them. And if you don't know the answer to their question, you go find somebody that does, or give them a resource to where they can learn themselves and have that for future access.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're not there to help them, what the heck are we doing?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it matters what business you're in.
Yeah, I think one of the downsides of COVID, and the thing that, I told my husband, if, and I'm not going to get into a discussion about COVID and masks and all that kind of stuff, but I really feel bad for, healthcare workers were already overworked as it was, and now they're dealing with a lot of critically sick patients, and sometimes the best medicine they need is the fact that somebody is there to care for them and hold their hand, because the family's not allowed in, or and they're there in the hospital alone. I had a friend of mine whose son had lymphoma, and he went through chemo and radiation, and his parents couldn't even go in the building, and as a parent, it just about ate her up, but you really have to go that extra mile and put on your caring costume and really show people how much you care. To me, that's more important than the particular medicine that you're doing or the particular treatments that you're doing.
Absolutely. No question, Carla, especially in healthcare. But, even as an accountant, when people are worried about their taxes and, what they're doing, as a lawyer, when somebody's in trouble and they've come, because they're getting sued or, whatever it is. So again, the lawyer needs to help them to feel comfortable and tell them what the solutions are going to be and how they're going to help them and so on and so forth. If your communication skills aren't good, how are you going to be successful? How are they going to keep coming back? Because, if you don't make them feel comfortable, then you're not going to be able to build a practice. And it's so important to be able to help people feel good. And it's something that we all need to be good at. And if we are, then we'll have a following, and people will want to be around you and know that you care about them and you want to help them. And, it's like Chris said, I help you, you help me, we help we. I mean, that's what that's all about. And if we can do that, then you build rapport, you build trust, you build respect. And when you have these things, you can have a good relationship. I mean, for those of us who are married, we know that that's what works. It's a matter of, how do you get along with your partner? And it's a matter of trust. And trust has to be built, and it has to be maintained. And if it's broken, it's very hard to fix. Very hard to fix.
Well, I don't really like the expression that you have to work at it. Because, I guess my husband and I think so much alike. I'll be thinking something and he will ask me about it. And I'm like, would you get out of my head? But we do. We think very much alike. And it's not work for us. It's a genuine respect. It's a genuine trust. It's a genuine caring about one another. Exactly. And when that is genuine, it's not work.
No. My husband and I are the same. I mean, I sometimes can finish his sentences, and I don't know if I told you this story, but once when our son was in high school, he came home one day and he said to me, I guess you wouldn't be very happy if I got a C in something. I said, no, because you can get A's and I expect you to get A's. He said, well, that's not fair because his sister has a learning disability. I said, yeah, but Elisa works her ass off to get good grades. You don't have to, but I expect you to do things well because you can do them well. Anyway, my husband came home a couple of hours later. We never had a chance to talk. He asked him the same question. He got exactly the same answer.
Love it. Love it.
So it's just a matter of, yeah, we are generally on the same page and we have a lot of similar interests and, all those kinds of things. And in some ways we're quite different, but, it works well because we are. And I mean, he's got this calculator brain and I'm not really good at simple math. And, when we're shopping, he's got the whole thing added up by the time we get to the cash. He knows what it's going to be.
My husband's like that.
I mean, it's kind of funny. I know in general what it'll be, but Yale's like right on it. And it's just a matter of, he worked in his father's grocery store from the time he was 5 years old. And people couldn't believe that a 5-year-old could make change. He could.
Wow.
Chris, did you have a question, Chris? Yeah, I saw you were about to say something.
I want you to talk about experts are experts in telling people what they can't do. Expand on that.
Well, it's a little connected to the comment prior with, experts' experience is limited. Very often what happens, we've all experienced people who say they're experts and can tell you what to do and what not to do. But the very notion of being an expert, most people who consider themselves experts come from the perspective of I know. And once you say I know, you close off possibilities to anything outside of I know. And the problem with it is that experts tend to tell you only what can be done or can't be done based on their own experience, which is limited. All right, we all have different experiences. So I'm only an expert in what I can experience. You have a different experience and you're an expert in what you experience. But for me to say you're wrong or that's not the way it is a bit disingenuous and it's a bit arrogant. I've dealt with a lot of people in academics or the law profession or whatever, and they're very good at telling you what can't be done. And they're much easier at telling you what you can't do as opposed to coming up with a solution to what you can do. And I find experts in that same vein. It's like, I'll listen to people talk about golf instruction and so forth, and they fey expertise of everything that they know about the golf swing. And they're not open to anything outside of what their little sphere or world tells them is true. And it's really interesting because it's like, well, I know the answer. That's what it is. It's like, okay, good. That's your answer, but that doesn't mean it's the only answer. And I see the same thing happening in the medical profession. I see the same thing happening in politics. I see the same thing in social discourse. This is the way the world is, and there's nothing else outside of whatever I say the world is. And I think it's really unfortunate because we have a lot of people who are in positions in business or otherwise who make decisions and say certain things and people believe what they say, but it's only a limited sample size of what they actually know, if they know anything at all. I mean, you're talking about you want to believe someone and listen to someone who has actual practical experience, yet we listen to a lot of people who don't, who have degrees, who have, backgrounds, who work in certain industries that don't have, readily available practitioner types of stuff. And we say, well, that's what it is. Well, okay. I mean, just because you replicate something in a lab doesn't mean that's the same thing that happens in the world. It's like I can do any study group or put together any type of assessment, Myers-Briggs or otherwise, Gallup or, Strength Finders or you name it. and you could come up with any assessment you want that say that's what the answer is. It's like, okay, but you got an answer that's predicated on the people who were involved in the questions that are asked, and it's completely limited. Like, take it outside of that and you'll get completely different answers. So I think we have to be a little wary of just blindly accepting what a so-called expert says or doesn't say. And I think that's where it becomes really interesting, that people just accept, hey, I am a doctor or a lawyer and I know what I'm talking about because this is what I've done for the last 35 years. You know, I'm a trial lawyer and this is what it is in the 5 cases that I've done. Okay. But that doesn't mean it always happens. It's like someone who, you know, kids are this way. Kids always say things, you're always mean to me. Well, always? Right? And that's where I think people use these kind of languages of, you know, they're always this way. They're always rude. Okay. You know, and if you dig, it's never always. It's, you know, we have recency bias and we assume that just because it happened today, it always happened. Well, that's what it's kind of about, Chris, that, you know, expert is just a word that we give to something or somebody else that we perceive to be an expert.
But I think, Brian, if somebody, even if they are an expert, in certain situations, you don't know everything.
Yeah.
But if you know other people who maybe have different experience or different knowledge than you do, so you can say to the person, I don't really know what that is, but I know somebody who can probably help us on this. So how about I give them a call? Or how about we go and see them or whatever? Because nobody knows everything. I don't care who the hell you are. Nobody knows everything. It doesn't matter what field you're in. I mean, you know, in medicine, there are so many different aspects to medicine that no doctor can know everything. It's just absolutely not possible. It's not possible in law. It's not possible in dentistry. It's the same thing, because different things happen, and there are certain areas in those fields that are very specific, and you might not have a lot of knowledge in that area. And if you don't, then you should call someone who knows more about that particular area of that profession, whatever it may be. So whether it's architecture or engineering or accounting or medical or dental or law, it doesn't matter. I mean, my husband, for example, he's a lawyer, but he doesn't practice, he doesn't go to court. It's not something he does. He does all the other kinds of law. And it's just a matter of, if somebody needs to go to court, there are people in the office that he works in that deal with that aspect of law. It's not his area of expertise. I don't know if he's ever been to court. So, you know, it's just a matter of, again, saying, okay, well, this is what I know, but I don't know about that. But this guy does, and so I'm going to refer you to him or to her, or, you know, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But I really feel a person who is smart and has expertise in certain areas, but can't know everything, then you need to get help in certain things that you don't have the answer for. And if you do that, then people will still trust you because you admitted that you don't know and you help them find someone who did. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think that that's another way to handle some of these things.
Yeah. Chris, I wanted to...
On a basic level, that we're in, just like in this group, when we're talking about doing particular things, each one of us is an expert at something. Or, you know, let's just say, you know, hey, I've had people help me try to figure out something on my cell phone, or, you know, working a program, or, you know, Chris and I have talked about doing PowerPoints. We talked about doing Canva. And, you know, he's like, well, you're an expert. I said, oh, no, I've just probably screwed up on it a lot more than you have, you know. But we all have experience. So I think an expert comes from somebody that's had experience. And in a simple situation such as this, I might have had more experience with Canva than Sandy or Chris. Yet Chris has had more experience with Google Meets than I have, you know, it's just different things. And so, but I know that I don't know it all.
Yeah, Chris, I want to just bring it back quickly to what you were talking about with your experience there. I mean, expertise, I mean, were they basically saying that you had to be an expert in order to be able to brand yourself? Is that ultimately what the message was?
To a certain extent as well, that you actually, to some extent, also be that authority into that. That you have to be that said authority. And this is something that I want us to also dive into also maybe for next week's call, but I'm going to throw this out there now because I have it on my brain right now. When we have said experts in whatever particular field, and me and you talked about this already, should we fill that cup up with that expertise or said expert? Or do we have to just say, hey, if I only know this, do I dump that all out, that bucket, so to speak, and fill that bucket up into another thing? Can we actually just do all these buckets, or take all the things that we do and maybe do a little bit of each one in one said bucket? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit jack of all trades, master of nothing type of thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
And I don't know if what it should be or shouldn't be. I mean, obviously, some people think we have charisma, some people don't. It's completely a fabrication of your intention or your perception of it. I don't know exactly how to answer it, but I'll do it this way. The best learners in the world that I have been around are the best performers.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that we underestimate in terms or how we describe experts is that once you become an expert or a master of something, there's nothing more beyond that. I already know it, I've mastered it, and that's it. But I'm not sure it really works that way. The best experts are the people who are willing to wear the white belt. And they never stop kind of exploring or diving into something. And I think it was Sandy, I think, mentioned practice. And I think we've touched on this a bit. Practice as we typically go about practice really doesn't make much difference. How we typically do it, learning concepts, learning information, understanding stuff, that's all fine and great, but it really doesn't empower us. It doesn't make us better in any other way outside of just knowledge. So we could look at practice a little differently. Maybe practice is the creation of distinctions that allow for things to occur, right? So in other words, you could ride a bicycle and get on a bicycle, but actually getting on a bicycle and learning or asking yourself, where do I place my body, doesn't teach you how to ride a bicycle. Like, I could get on a bicycle and fall over every single time. It isn't until you create a distinction or a clearing that opens up for the possibility for balance to show up will you actually learn how to ride a bicycle. And what happens is most times we teach people learning concepts, skills, and so forth the same way. So yeah, balance is probably one of the key distinctions of learning how to ride a bicycle.
Give me a golf analogy.
So in golf, most of the way golf is taught is through the remembrance of positions, where the body is, where the club is in relation to the body, and so forth. And I would describe it as trying to teach someone how to speak by memorizing the position of your vocal cord to make a particular sound.
Oh.
And
That's deep.
the problem with teaching people through concepts, methods, theories, processes, is that methods and theories don't work outside of maybe mathematical theory or scientific theory like gravity. The person works, not the theory. See, and we give credit to something external when that's the genius, and okay. But consider it being in golf, that specifically golf, because I teach it and so forth. it's not what a person says that matters. It's what a person experiences that does. And in order to have an experience that makes a difference in anything, is you have to create it as a distinction and a clearing or a space for it to show up. And Chris, we've talked about leadership in the same way. So Carla, to specifically answer your question, one of the things that needs to happen in golf in particular is that what happens is people have the remembrance of an instruction they've been told, something to remember to do, as opposed to actually having the real-time physical body sensation or sensory awareness of it occurring. So there's a distinction between remembering something and actually having the impression of something. And that's where it becomes really different. That the sensory experience is what you learn from, not what somebody tells you. Right?
So Brian, I want to chime in with this. You see what's on the screen right now?
Yeah.
What's your take on that from what Shaquille said?
That's how we occur for her. Based on her version or definition of what charisma is, we don't show up that way for her.
Feel free to join us live.
Yes, Shaquille, we would love to have you. The green room link is right here, and I will put it in the chat so you can join us. Let me go ahead and copy and paste that. We would love to have you on. We want to love to get your perspective, so let me go do that real quick.
If I don't look like I'm charismatic, it's because I'm trying to listen and not formulate what I want to say next. I'm trying to listen and absorb it and think on a different level. To me, I'm not here to be charismatic. I'm here to have a thoughtful conversation and insight and learn from everybody that I'm around.
My question,
and anyone
Chris,
that joins the call.
Yeah. And my question, I guess, would be what is charisma? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? When you think about it, what comes up for you? These quality traits amuse me when people use them and throw them around as if they're actually things that we can possess and have.
So Shaquille, we just sent you the live link. I replied to you.
Yeah, awesome.
The live chat.
Yeah, feel free to join us. You know, when I was thinking about the term of expert, and when you were saying this, that people, I think that people use it so frequently as an adjective to describe themselves, and because they want to be better than other people that are offering the same type services that they are. And, everyone, let's just say, okay, health and wellness. There are tons of people out there that are doing health and wellness. Some of them are doing just mindset. Some of them are doing positivity. Some of them are doing nursing burnout. We all have something to offer, but I would not say that I'm an expert just to be able to be a cut above everybody else. I want to get to know people, know where they're at, figure out where they are, and meet them where they're at and say, this is what I can do to help you. Or, I get to know them as people. One of the best compliments I ever got was somebody on LinkedIn who lives in Houston, Texas. And we just happened to connect as friends. And, she asked me what I did, and she told me that she's a mom. She has 4 kids. And we just started exchanging information about health and wellness. I wasn't out to sell her a program or anything like that. And anybody I talk to, we talk about it. I'll give them the same information that I would give a lot of other people. I've got some added things that they can use too, if that suits their bill. But for me, I want healthy people in this world. Yeah. One of the biggest compliments I got was she referred 2 of her friends to me, and she said, this is my girl, because she didn't try to sell me. She didn't tell me she was an expert at anything. She helped me help myself. And you know, she had looked at what we had, and I didn't push it. And I thought, if it's for her, it's for her. If she wants to join one of our programs, she can. It's more about changing your lifestyle and in combination with the programs, if that's for you. And you know, I checked in with her, and she sent me back a message. She says, "Oh, by the way, I went ahead and ordered." You know, and I was like, "Wow." And
yeah, I agree, Carla.
it's helping people.
Yeah, oh, I agree. I think there's an aspect of that, especially with the advent of social media and the access to social media, that it's easy to say I'm an expert, and it's kind of a false validity to it. You know, it's almost a sense of, if I put expert, I will be looked at as cool enough and be taken seriously enough. But if I don't put expert, nobody's going to listen to me. You know, and that's not to say that there aren't experts. I mean, there are some people who are completely expert at what they do, and it's not to diminish them at all. It's just, yeah, there's an overuse of the word expert.
Mm-hmm.
I've never
it's like influencer.
I've never used that word to describe myself, because
I never have either.
I do what Carla does, and I've told you this before. Whenever I have a new prospect, I always either sit down with them in person or have a telephone call with them. Once I did it on Skype. I want to find out what they're really looking for, what is causing their pain, so that I can design a program that's going to address their specific needs. And so after we have that conversation, and I then tell them what I can offer them in terms of dealing with certain things that they're facing, and I will often send them documentation of those elements and allow them to choose what they think is going to be most beneficial to them. And once we've settled on what the elements will be, then I put together the program. And I also have make up for them a fully documented syllabus, so they don't have to take a lot of notes. And it's just a matter of, you know, it's part of the listening process, Brian. I mean, if we don't listen to people and find out what it is they're really looking for, then we can't be that helpful. You know, we need to find out what they're seeking, what's going to help you. What specific things are causing you pain. And once we know those things, then we can come up with different solutions that would possibly help them. And I usually offer them 2 or 3 in every area, and let them pick what they think is going to be most beneficial to themselves, if it's a coaching person, or to their team, if it's a group of people. Because the team leader or the HR person, whoever I'm dealing with, is the one who knows what's going on. And that's why I want to have that discussion with them, because I want to really find out very specifically what their needs are. Because as I've said before, doing generic workshops or generic coaching sessions is not helpful. It's really not. You've got to find out what is causing them pain. And once you've discovered that, then you can provide them with solutions. I mean, it's just, to me, again, it's not rocket science. It's just, how do you help people? I want to help someone. I want to help them be better. I want to help them be more comfortable. I want to help them come up with some different approaches and strategies and ideas that will help them to be more successful in the things that have caused them difficulty. And you can't know that if you don't have a discussion with them and listen very carefully to what it is. I always make notes, and then I give them feedback. Okay, so far you said this. Is that correct? Okay, well, here are some of the things that we could do about that. And so I'm going to send you documentation on that, and then you can decide which one you think is going to be most appropriate. Or if you think that a couple of them will be appropriate, we can do both of them, like whatever. And that's generally how I put together the program, so that I make sure that I am going to be able to be helpful to them. Because otherwise, it just doesn't work. And you can't assume that you know without having a discussion with them. Just because they send you an email and say they want stress management help, or they want time management help. You got to know what is preventing them from being good at that. Or communication help. Well, is it assertiveness? Is it active listening? Is it accountability? Is it conflict? Like, what aspect of communication is, holding you back? Because there's lots of things we can talk about. But I need to know specifically what it is, so I can make sure that I'm going to be able to help you. And that's why it's very important to have conversations with people that we're trying to help. Because otherwise, it's like you said, Carly, you got to get to know them a little bit So we
Oh,
got to
absolutely.
find out, what they need so that we can be helpful. And it was just like I told you about that lady that had the autistic kid, that I was going to be treating. And, I wanted to know what the triggers were and how to be able to deal with this person, because I know that autistic people don't like strangers. They just don't relate to them. So, she was so shocked that I called her. I mean, it just blew her mind. She said, no one's ever done that before. I said, well, I'm sorry. I want to make sure that your kid is comfortable in the dental office. And the only way you can do that is if you help me. You need to help me. Tell me what to do.
That's the way you roll. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, did you want to ask any last couple things to wrap up the last few minutes?
Absolutely. Going back to Shaquille, what they said on the live stream, should an expert be charismatic and motivated on a live stream? Should that be done? And from, especially from your experience, because you've taught me so well on that kind of topic of, your reality shouldn't be dictated up to someone else's reality, because your reality is only your reality, not their reality.
Well, if I read what she says, why is every live stream everyone comes off as poorly motivated? One, I don't know what every live stream is, and I don't know who everyone is. It's like saying we're always mean. Okay, I don't have enough information. I have to get specific. What do you mean every live stream? Every live stream we do, or every live stream that she watches or participates in? I don't know. And people come off as poorly motivated. I don't know what poorly motivated looks like.
If we weren't motivated, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I don't know what charisma looks like or doesn't look like. It's a word that is used to describe what we perceive an outward appearance from someone else, but it's just a word that we're creating. I mean, I don't know. I need to have more information, and I don't know what younger generation is either. I mean, that we have a wide range of ages on this call, so younger generation is very subjective. I don't know.
Who are you calling old?
Nobody's calling anyone old. That's your interpretation.
Hey. My mother would say, I represent that.
I don't know. I mean, you know what I think happens, though, and this is just how it occurs for me. When someone says charisma, what I think people mean and how I interpret is I think it means personality. And
I'm reading the definition according to Google. Exercises a compelling charm which inspires devotion in others.
So
I'm
it
not
gets
here
back
for
to your
somebody
post.
to be devoted to me.
So, Chris, it gets back to your other post earlier today in terms of needing or helping other people, that John C. Maxwell one, where I asked, can you actually add value? I mean, that's ultimately what it's saying.
Right.
And I asked the question to that, and my answer to it is no, you really can't add value to someone else. I think it's a bit arrogant to assume that I have something and I'm going to give it to you and then you're going to go have it. It's a little like traits. Like, okay, so I have value. What does it mysteriously reside here in this like collar? And I'm going to take it out and give it to you. It's kind of a weird kind of dynamic of how we describe it. So I don't know. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't give people insights into things that will direct them into places, but I don't know if that's the same as providing value.
So the way I look at giving value, if I can interject here, because I do like John C. Maxwell, and I think of it in terms of information I put out on LinkedIn, videos that I do. It's offering information and not being an expert, but offering information about health and wellness and giving value. And it's not going to resonate with everybody, but if it resonates with one, I'm doing it, and I don't necessarily expect to get anything back from it. I'm not saying, hey, buy my stuff, buy my program. I'm offering value and I'm giving of myself. It's not like I'm saying, well, I'll tell you some information, but it's going to cost you $9.99. It's not like that at all. You know, I'm giving
her
that.
Her emails following the call, by the way, for the sign up for $19.99 a month, right?
You know, when I first started on a, I say full-time basis, it's not full-time, but as my sole thing that I do, I had a friend that I knew from my ex-husband in college, and we connected on LinkedIn. He asked me what I did, and he goes, oh, I'm looking for some health and wellness tips. And at that time, I was putting together a flyer of information that I was doing for an event I was doing, where I set up a table, and if they liked the information, fine. If they didn't, that's fine. I had a contest, and I gave out a whole lot of how to survive the holiday tips. And I sent it to him because he was asking me for them, and he goes, wow, how much do you charge? And I said, you know, if you would like the program, that's fine, but I'm going to give you the same information that I would give you, Brian, or I'd give you, Sandy, based on whatever your needs are, you know? Right. That I'm giving value. Yes. And that to me is what giving value means, not expecting anything in return and leaving somebody better, even if it's just one person with one sentence.
Chris, we can have a large conversation about that because value is very subjective.
Yes.
Well, let's do that tomorrow.
Hey, well, I'm up for that. But also, Brian, we need to let people know what's coming up on Saturday. What is coming up on Saturday for us?
You and I are going to do a short 1 hour conversation on Clubhouse. Probably talking a bit about experts in humanity and might even touch on value and a few other things, but get onto a different platform and give it a try. It's an interesting medium.
Yes, it is. And for those who is not on Clubhouse, after the live stream ends, I will get back on this very post and put the Clubhouse handle that I'm on and also the event too as well. And if you have an iPhone right now or an iPad, please feel free to join us because we would love for you to be engaged with us on the platform. So that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Linda, Sandy, Carla, and as always, Brian, you're opening minds and making us think deeper each and every single conversation. So that's what I love about you, man. You're just so great wealth of knowledge into that. But yeah, please join us on Clubhouse, and that will be at 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And we'll be hosting that. And Conversation for Humanity pretty soon will be on Clubhouse full time, depending on how we can be able to get more people on there. And we would love to have you on Clubhouse too as well. So be looking for the handle of Clubhouse for me and the event for this coming Saturday. You guys have a great and wonderful Wednesday. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow for Humanity Happy Hour, hosted by none other than Miss Carla.
Bye, everybody.
See you tomorrow, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.